China blasts U.S. evil past of genocide at UN Human Rights Council.
Here's a summary of the article.
China on Wednesday blasted the United States human rights record, citing what it called U.S. failures against COVID-19 that cost hundreds of thousands of lives, as well as racial discrimination, police brutality, and an evil past of genocide. Jiang Duan, a counselor at the Chinese mission in Geneva, voiced the criticism at the end of an examination of the U.S. rights record at the Human Rights Council, part of a regular review faced by all countries at the United Nations top human rights body. The U.S. has repeatedly criticized China's rights record on issues like the rights of protesters in Hong Kong and the detention of Muslim Uyghurs in the Xinjiang region. In a brief but sharp statement, Jiang criticized U.S. military interventions abroad that had resulted in tremendous deaths of civilians and faulted U.S. forces for having slaughtered innocent civilians and conducted torture in other countries. The U.S. neither apologizes for its evil past of genocide nor provides reparation to the victims, he said, without elaborating. Lisa Peterson, the U.S. Acting Assistant Secretary for Democracy, Human Rights and Labor, said the U.S. was very proud that it had accepted more than 4/5 of 347 recommendations put up by other countries on ways the U.S. could improve its rights record. She outlined U.S. support for some recommendations and pointed to U.S. efforts on issues such as the rights of migrants and indigenous peoples, climate change, and improving Americans' access to health care during the pandemic.
This post received a score of 12,000, with an upvote ratio of 87%. Here are the top comments in response to this article.
Blasts, a word that media use for anything from a cheeky comment under your breath to all-out shouting in order to get more clicks.
Dono 1066 blasts the media for overuse of the term blasts.
I believed he slammed.
On social media, one owns people I believe, or perhaps ruins them.
On YouTube the hot term is destroys. Shen Bepiero obliterates college commie Pogger urine.
Dear Oak, you claim to be progressive, so why are you conservative with your feet pics? Curious. Benny.
Another favorite term used by the media is slam or slams. Reminds me of WWE commentators' tears of joy.
China slams the United States through the table. Now that's what I call a genocide. I think I speak for the entire UN universe when I say that China is a superstar you don't want to mess with.
There's such a weird history between China and the USA that it's easy to forget that the destination our path has always been leading to started back in 1998 when The Undertaker threw mankind off HAL in a cell, and plummeted 16 feet through an announcer's table.
I went through like 3 layers of nostalgia reading that.
Well, in all actuality, there has been many changes of the relationship between the two countries, through generations. Like the First World War, the Cold War, etc. But I think the most influential part and the reason they're enemies to this day is due to that one time my dad beat me with jumper cables.
Motherfucker.
That was the father, not you. Just some.
The title of the article is pretty shit, but the content of the article, I will say, is actually pretty neutral and informative. Such a shame that the editor have to fall for a clickbait title.
If the purpose was to highlight each other's problems and maybe find a way to fix them, then that's good. If the purpose was childish deflection in an attempt to do nothing about their own problems, then China can go fuck themselves.
China knows exactly what it's doing. The childish deflection actually works, or the tactic wouldn't be reused so frequently.
Mostly I think it's for their domestic media to show off how noble the state is. That, and they want to normalize their own behavior internationally if possible so they can commit genocide in peace.
That's a good point I hadn't thought of. It works on their citizens because they're technically not wrong, but it's wildly unfair and defeats the matter at hand. It's a perfect blend of deceit and truth.
The telling part is most Americans and Europeans are able to acknowledge their colonial and genocidal past without endorsing it. It's rare that you can get the people who use those historical examples of Western atrocities in defense of China to admit to any atrocities the country is committing, whether it's the Uyghurs, or Tibet, or Tiananmen etc. They'll either keep trying to force the conversation to be about the US, EU, or they'll add some giant qualification to their admission.
This video was automatically created by Reddit to speech. The article and comments in this video were selected from Reddit according to their upvotes, and any paraphrasing was performed by smmry.com, without any human intervention.